Hi there, this is Maher. In this first lecture, I'm going to speak about GNS3. So what is GNS3 and what is the function of GNS3, some features about GNS3, then you have a global idea about it. Then after that, I'm going to start installing the softwares to be able to emulate OpenSense inside GNS3. So let's go directly to the lecture to explain what is GNS3 and its feature, and then after that I will start doing the labs in the upcoming lectures. So what is GNS3? GNS3 is Graphical Network Simulator 3. It's a network virtualization and emulation platform that allows you to create, test, and visualize the network topology using real network operating system. So say that you have a computer, and inside this computer you would like to run, for example, OpenSense, as this is an OpenSense course. Normally, if you want to practice on OpenSense, you really require to have OpenSense devices, like maybe 3 devices, to be able to run a lab for OSPF or for BGP or for firewall or VPN whatsoever. So instead of going and buying all those equipments, which cost a lot of money, what you can do, you can have GNS3 installed on your computer, and yes, it is free of charge. You just install it on your computer, and then you import inside this GNS3 OpenSense operating system, and then you can make the labs that you want. You can create on GNS3 as much as you want OpenSense devices. So GNS3 is not only about OpenSense, it also have, well, as we are going to see now, it can have many more operating systems. Like, for example, we can use Cisco, we can put Juniper, we can put MikroTik, we can put pretty much of operating systems. So GNS3 is widely used by engineers and IT professionals to simulate real-world environment without needing physical hardware. So you don't really need to buy the hardware, you just get the virtual ones, you put them on GNS3, you connect them all together, and then you have an environment to be able to do the labs that you want to do. So what can do for you GNS3? GNS3 allows you to build a complete network topology visually, add routers, firewall switches, connect virtual devices together, so you can connect them all together, all the routers and switches. You can mix virtual physical equipment, meaning you can possibly put, for example, OpenSense connected to Cisco, connected to Juniper, and so forth. That's possible. You can test the configuration safely before deploying them. Very important whenever you want to deploy any type of networking scenarios, that you test it first before you put it on your production network. You can emulate, as I said, many vendors such as Cisco, MikroTik, Juniper, OpenSense, Linux, and much more. And if you want, you can as well capture traffic using Wireshark. So once you are sending traffic from one device to another, there's possibility. Wireshark comes with GNS3, so you can capture the traffic using Wireshark, and it gives you the flexibility to design any network scenario you imagine. I have here GNS3 open in front of me here. Of course, I'm going to show you how you can install it within this course, but just for now, just to show you that how normally it looks. So what you can do, you can just make a blank project. Just you put anything that you want here as a name, and over here you have, of course, then you have to add all the devices here, but at this moment I do have Cisco. So what you can do, you can just put a router for Cisco here, another router here, and then another router here. And what you can do, you can make connection between those 2 routers. For example, fast Ethernet 0 to 0 connected to that one on fast Ethernet 0, 0, and this is 0 over 1 connected to that one on 0 over 1. And then you have an emulation, and all you need to do is you just run this emulation, and then you can log into those routers and you can do the configuration. So you can see it's pretty easy. So what we are going to do, we are going to put OpenSense over here as well, and I'm going to show you how also you can connect your computer to those routers in case you have OpenSense or Cisco, it doesn't matter. So all of those things we are going to cover in this course. Now, the supported devices on GNS3, so it works GNS3 on different technologies. For example, like Cisco IOS, it works with the Dynamips, IOU, and QEMU. It also works with MikroTik Router OS, Juniper, VSRX, VYOS. So those are some routing devices that are supported by GNS3, but also there are pretty much more than that. So what you can do, again, we can go to the GNS3, and over here, all you need to do is just, you can say, I want to make a new template, and I'm going to go through all of those, but just to show you that if you just check on the router, you can see we have Cisco, we have Dell, we have Huawei, we have Juniper, Microtik. So you can see it's pretty much a lot of things you can have here. And of course you can add yours as well if they are not listed here. You have also different type of switches as well, Aruba, Cisco, Juniper, Microtik, and so forth. So you can see over here that you have pretty much of vendors, and you have not only the routers, you have router switches, you can have also firewall. So that is the firewall stating here for you, and that is the OpenSense, as you can see, is listed there on the firewall, because OpenSense is more known as a firewall device, but of course it can do routing. But yeah, it's also known as a firewall device. And you have some guests, for example, some operating system for client operating systems as well. So you can have them over here. For example, this Kali Linux is used normally for hacking the Mac OS and so forth. So you can see it's pretty much a lot of things you can have on GNS3. Now for the firewall, as I said, there is OpenSense, pfSense, FortiGate, Palo Alto, Cisco ASA. For switching, you can see, for example, for Cisco IOU, layer 2, layer 3, Linux-based switching and virtual switches inside QEMU. And you can have also servers, so all those we have seen them, like Kali Linux, Windows Server, monitoring tools, and traffic generators. Now, as we have the whole idea now, we need to know how the GNS3 works. So GNS3 combines several components. First component is the GNS3 graphical user interface. That's the one which you see it over here. So this is the GNS3 graphical user interface to be able to interact with GNS3. And then you have the virtual machine. So virtual machine is used to provide fast, stable visualization using QEMU and KVM. And as you can see here, if we go to GNS3, I have this one over here, GNS3 virtual machine. Again, I'm going to explain all of those during the course, but I use that one to be able to have a faster GNS3 software to work as when I add the devices on GNS3. And then you can use as well the virtualization providers such as VMware Workstation, VMware Player, VirtualBox, or QEMU. So meaning what you can do, you can, for example, put an operating system in VirtualBox and import it inside GNS3. So you have to have the VirtualBox, Oracle VirtualBox, you put the software there, and then you import that into GNS3. That's possible. Same if you are using the VMware as well. Now, what are the advantages of GNS3? Again, we know now that there is no need for physical routers and switches and firewall and guests. You can build large and complex network. You can put as much as you want routers. You don't need to buy them. You just connect them the way you want, and then you can emulate the network. You can do testing without having risk of outage because you are not doing any configuration on your production network, so you are safe. It's completely visual and easy to understand. So you see that when you connect all the routers, they are clear in front of you how the network is connected, and so then it's also easy for you to understand it. It's a multi-vendor environment on one platform. As I said, you can put different types of vendors, not only OpenSense, but you can also put any other vendor that you want. You have the ability to simulate production like app setups. So if you want to run something on your production network, you can test it first on GNS3. If it works, you can put it on your production network. And then you can have packet capturing for troubleshooting using Wireshark, which comes with GNS3. You can capture the traffic going from one router to another, for example, to do the troubleshooting. And it's possible to integrate with real hardware. And that is very important, that on GNS3, even though that those hardware are virtual, you can also connect them to real hardware if you want. And I'm going to show you that when I do the lab, how to connect my real computer to the routers which are inside this GNS3. And now the number 6 is key components inside GNS3. We have seen that we have nodes like routers, firewalls, switches, server, links. That's something I have already showed you here. Those are the links. When I create here the links, I connect this router to this router, so those are the links. We have console also to be able to have access to the router. When we run it, we have console access, that's possible. We have appliance, pre-configured virtual machine templates. That's something I have showed you, that when I was looking with you about the different templates, those are the appliances. Projects, so whenever you are doing the configuration and you finish, you can save your configuration to come back to it and at any time you want. and you can have the packet capturing in order to be able to check what is happening in your network. When the router or the firewall is sent to from one device to another, you can capture the traffic. Now, very important to know what is the system requirement to run the GNS3. So it's recommended that you have a more than 4-core CPU and RAM between 8 to 16 gigabyte. You have free disk of 80 gigabyte. You can run it on Windows, Mac OS, or Linux machine, and of course, VMware or VirtualBox for hosting the GNS3 virtual machine. Normally, I use the VMware for that to host the GNS3 virtual machine, but you can also use the VirtualBox. Now, you may say that you don't have a more than 4-core CPU. Yeah, I can understand it. Even if you have 1-core, GNS3 can still work, but then you may have some spikes on your CPU when you run many devices. And finally, the typical use cases is to build, as we said, network topology, learn routing and switching, as well as firewall, because we are also working on firewall in this course, as well as being an open source course, testing firewall configuration. You can do multi-WAN solutions, simulating WAN MPLS environment, practicing troubleshooting, and then safe environment to experiment with network technology. And of course, the list can go much longer. You can do pretty much almost what you can do on real equipment, you can do using GNS3. So this is all what I wanted to explain to you in this first lecture. So as you can see, GNS3 is a very important thing to keep in mind. I'm working on GNS3 since a very long time ago. Even I was working before GNS3 was there with the older version of it, which was called Dynam IPs. So I was using that one, and then when GNS3 came, it became a graphical user interface, because before you had to write some coding. So I was very happy. So it's a really, really long time ago that I'm using GNS3, and for all the courses that I build, which are possible to be used using GNS3, I use GNS3 to build those courses. So I hope that this lecture was informative for you, and in the upcoming lecture I'm going to start showing you what are the softwares that we need to install to be able to emulate Open Sans network on GNS3. So see you in the upcoming lecture.